Perfect. So hello everyone. Nice to see many people, so many people here, because the other track is also a very cool thing. So I'm very proud that you all want to come to my session. So I will talk about K8sGPT a bit today and how to gain SRE superpowers with it. So first question to all of you: whom of you used OpenAI or ChatGPT? Perfect. And who many of you ever used it to troubleshoot something? Also very much. And how many of you were successful? That's much. Okay. So funny side story. When I first started using ChatGPT, OpenAI, I also had the problem that I had to troubleshoot some very sophisticated problem, and ChatGPT told myself that it would be possible, and I think 1.5 days later, I found out that it wasn't possible, and therefore I started Googling afterwards. And so when I'm using ChatGPT to troubleshoot something, I also use Google afterwards to validate if something works. Okay, so at first, why did I start contributing to K8sGPT? So this was a concert, I think it was about 25 years ago, and I wasn't able to attend because I had to troubleshoot things. The second thing, this was a party, I think also about 20 years ago, and I had to leave earlier because I had to troubleshoot. And the third thing, this is a typical Austrian thing called Kaiserschmarrn. And it had to get cold because I had to go troubleshooting. So when Alex Jones asked me if I want to contribute to K8sGPT, I was very satisfied about the project and the possibility to help other people troubleshooting their K8s issues. And yes, this is where my story with K8sGPT begins. So what will you hear today? You will hear what could go wrong with Kubernetes and a short demonstration of troubleshooting Kubernetes. And there are many things that could go wrong in Kubernetes, as you might all know. Secondly, I will talk about why human knowledge and AI is a perfect fit to fix Kubernetes issues. Thirdly, I will fix a Kubernetes issue with K8sGPT. I will also do a demo, which I didn't do until now, so stay tuned. And I will also show you my favorite application today. And finally, I will show you how to use K8sGPT as your 24/7 SRE. Okay, so let's start. What you see here is my favorite app. So I use it for almost every demo. I use it also when I'm teaching young people. And this consists of a front-end service, a front-end deployment, has a config map, and it has 5 backend services, which also have deployments and pods behind them. And this is a thing I will deploy now. Let's see if everything is there. So at first, let's take a short look on it. So we have a namespace, we have some kind of config map in there. We might have some kind of services, deployments, and so on. So a very typical Kubernetes deployment manifest as we see it every time. And in the first step, I will apply it. Sometimes it could take a bit longer. And you see, it creates some namespace, it creates a config map, it creates lots of services, and some deployments. And one of the first things I want to do when I deploy this application, I want to take a look at the application I deployed. And therefore, sorry, you see it's live. But I thought I prepared it. Oops. And I'm a bit nervous, as you might see. So let's take this one and put this in. But in fact, it would have made no difference if it worked, because it simply will not work. Okay, you can trust me, it won't work. Okay, the second thing, I will try to find out why this application will not work. And one of the first things I will take a look on are the deployments I deployed now. Okay, and one thing we see here is we have 6 deployments, as we saw it in the picture before, and one of them is not ready. So the first thing I can take a look on are the pods. And normally, I start my troubleshooting session in another order. And what you see here is, normally when you have lots of services, you wouldn't find out that one of them is missing. What we saw in the deployments before is we have six deployments, but now we only have 5 pods. Now, what's happening there? So let's take a closer look on the deployment itself. In the right namespace. And also in my deployment, everything seems like it's working perfectly. So we scaled, our replica set has scaled up to 1. We see no errors, and so on. And this is one of the points where I think many people have some problems understanding how Kubernetes operates. So when I first started troubleshooting this, I learned that below every deployment, there is a replica set. And when I take a closer look on the replica set, which is below it, front end, I will also see that 1 is desired, no current, no ready. And when I describe this a bit better, okay, my laptop wants to show me some smileys. I hopefully get to the point where I find the problem. So in my case, the main problem was that the replica set tries to create the pod, and I use the service account which is not there. So this seems like it's very easy when I show it here. In fact, I think about 1.5 years ago, it took me about 1.5 hours to find the service account because I had a typo in it. So the next thing I will do now is I will create the service account. And hopefully my pod will come up in a few seconds. Hours later. But in fact, it will come up shortly if I didn't make some other things wrong. Will it come up? I wasn't doing. Sounds good. Now it. Perfect. So Timo got this with me. So you see the service will come up now. Hopefully my port thing will also work now. No, it doesn't. Let's try another one. Oh, well, yes, this is my favorite application. So you see that my potato head is now here, but the potato head is missing one right leg. So what you see here is a microservice application. I think the most simple one which is possible. And this consists of about 6 components. So you have the body itself, you have the head, left hand, right hand, and so on. And each body part is one service. So in my case, I have the problem that the right leg is not reachable. So my troubleshooting session will go on. If I take a look on my pods, I will see that my right leg service is here. Perfect. Sounds very nice. The second thing I can take a look on are the services. And also here on the first look, it seems like everything is okay. So my service is there and might be working. But even if I take a look on the endpoints of the services, I will find out that one of the services has no endpoint. And maybe if you are unexperienced with Kubernetes and so on, this can also take you hours to troubleshoot. In fact, to make this troubleshooting session a bit shorter, I had a right leg in my manifest somewhere. And in the specification here, as you might all know, for services we need selectors to select the right pods. And I had a typo in my selector here. So I chose the right legs. And this was also the reason why this didn't work. So let's apply this again. And hopefully, we will get a complete potato head now. Perfect. So whom of you had some kind of such problems to troubleshoot in your career? I think so. So as you might have seen, these are all problems which we all could have and which can take us hours or sometimes longer to find out what really happened there. So what did we learn from this demo now? Troubleshooting Kubernetes can be really cumbersome. So I told you before, for me, sometimes it took hours for such easy problems. Another thing, I didn't have exactly this problem once. I also think I didn't have it twice. I think I had it many times. And we are always troubleshooting the same issues. So if you have Helm charts, you are creating things and so on, you might always build in the same problems and you always want to fix them. But in fact, as you have seen in this demo, we are able to solve the problems. So we know where the problems are and therefore we can also detect them. Another thing, and this is also where K8sGPT comes in, we're often definitely not the first hitting these problems. So as you all raised your hands before, I think we had the same problems. And therefore it would be nice if we had detected it once and solved it 20 times. So why don't we automate the detection problem and also the problem solving process? And this was the beginning of K8sGPT. So this is the evolution of K8sGPT. You see it is a very fast growing project. And you see also the evolution with kind of the logos we had before. So at first we had a very fancy logo. And we gained lots of traction. So as you saw here, this is the amount of GitHub stars we gained. I think we had around 1,000 to 2,000 GitHub stars in a few days. Then after some times we committed this to, so we also added this to the scene safe landscape. Therefore we had to get a bit more serious with our logo. But we also want to make it a bit fancier and had more colorful. But this logo didn't last very long. And in the end, this is where we stand now. We have a very, not so colorful logo, but fairly consistent, and it works, logo. And in fact, these two logos are the things you might see in the wild, because the funny side story of this, as we decided to take this logo, I printed some stickers, and 1 day later we decided to take this one. So the project is very fast moving, and also very fastly evolving. So I talked lots about K8sGPT now, but what is K8sGPT? So often when I talk about K8sGPT, many people think about it's another way to interact with ChatGPT to ask for Kubernetes questions. In fact, the very first version of K8sGPT was a very simple CLI with some built-in analyzers, and one of the first things you could have done was type in K8sGPT analyze. This queried Kubernetes for some problems, and in the end, it told you that you have a problem. So far, so good. But we also put in GPT in there. So what would be GPT without any AI integration? So we added an OpenAI integration there, and afterwards, it told you that you have a problem, and it also told you what the solution to this problem is. And this is one thing I want to show you now. So I will clean up the thing now and the thing again. And we'll reapply the old one. What? Okay, so this is my old broken manifest as I had it before. And the first thing I could do now after installing K8sGPT, and this is very easy to install using Brew. So we have a tab repository, and you could simply install it. After typing in your AI key, OpenAI key, you could simply do a K8sGPT analyze. And it tells me that I have some problems. So the first thing it tells me that my front-end deployment has one replica, but only one is, but 0 is available, as we saw before. The second thing is I see that 2 of my services have no endpoints. Clear, because one did not come up. The second one has the wrong label. And the third thing is it shows me that my service account is missing. I think you all saw the troubleshooting session before. I think it took me around, 5 to 10 minutes to find out what the issues are there. Now I had it with one CLI call. The second thing is I could also let it explain these problems to me. And in this case, this has been cached. So it was a bit faster than normally. And what I see now is I have my problem in red, and I have the AI-generated solution in green. So with the red line, we went to OpenAI, asked for a solution for this problem, and in the end, it tells me what I have to do. So I should check the status of the Potato Head front-end deployment. I should verify if there are any issues with the underlying resources, and so on. With the service accounts, it's the same, and whatever we have there. And the funny thing is, although it's called K8sGPT, it's still very, in Austria we call it bodenständig. So we try to find the error patterns on our own. So you have the human knowledge, which finds out the problems in a Kubernetes cluster, but you have the AI which tells you how to solve it. And the next more funny part is, when we started with the project, I said I'm no AI specialist. I don't know how the whole thing works. And if I take a look on the code, I found out that this consists of about 3 lines. So we are only creating a client. I think we are creating a prompt, and then we are firing this up to OpenAI. In the meanwhile, it's a bit more sophisticated. So you could also have some kind of JSON output. And what you also see here, and this might be interesting for some of you, we are also masking some kind of information in there. So we see that that we might have some kind of pod names, we might have some kind of service names and so on. And before sending them to OpenAI, we are masking them, sending them masked to OpenAI, and afterwards unmask them if they come back. So, cool thing, right? And when I started with the talk, I promised you that you will get to know my 24/7, the SRE, or what we created to have a 24/7 SRE. And therefore, after some time, we found out that the CLI is pretty, yes, it's nice, but for an SRE, it's kind of manual. And therefore, we also started to create an operator for this. And this operator does nothing more than always trying to find issues in the Kubernetes cluster. And when it finds issues, it reports them to a CRD, and it also can take actions on this. As you might see here, in the next thing. So the only thing I did before was I installed a Helm chart and I added my OpenAI secret, which I will not expose here, and created a simple manifest, which tells me how to deal with K8sGPT. And there it says, I have an AI, the backend is OpenAI, this is enabled, language is English, so you could also have it in Dutch, in German. I think Schweizerdeutsch is not in there, but we might work on it. It tells you which model to use, you have your secret in there, and in my case, it will generate a Slack message afterwards. So if it finds something. And I will simply apply this now. And I will remove the webhook afterwards. And now what's happening in the K8sGPT namespace? I see that I have my controller in there and I have an instance of K8sGPT running there. And this was a funny thing we implemented in K8sGPT after some time. So I did some kind of demo at I think it was a KubeCon. And I thought it would be nice to trigger K8sGPT from another application, which was called Captain. And to simply find out if something goes wrong after your deployment has been done. And therefore, we created some kind of API in there, in the meaning it's a gRPC API. And therefore, it could also you could also remotely run K8sGPT now. And the second thing is the operator, which simply manages all of this. And hopefully, it took me long enough. This is the Ranger desktop. This was not what I wanted to show you. What I have got now, and it gets larger, the operator or the K8sGPT instance analyzed my Kubernetes cluster, found out that exactly these three problems we saw in the CLI before exist, and now it tells me that I have a problem and how I can fix this. And I think this is really cool, especially when you want to have control over your Kubernetes cluster. In future, with all of these webhooks and so on, it might also be possible to create GitHub issues. It could also be a more sophisticated AI use case if you create pull requests for these issues to fix the problem. But that needs some time. Okay. Where are we? Yes, and I also talk about human knowledge, and this wouldn't be possible without lots of people who are working on K8sGPT. So K8sGPT is there for about, I think since March. I'm not sure how many months they are. We have 43 contributors to the project, which all contributed their human knowledge, their knowledge about Kubernetes, and also some kind of knowledge how to fix that. And you could be the next. So if you would like to contribute some error patterns and so on, feel free to open up pull requests, issues, and so on. We are a very friendly community. So we will also be happy if you want to contribute something. And yes, this was the thing I wanted to say today. Another thing I wanted to show you today, and this was the demo I never did before. I think you might have heard, some of you might have heard the talk of NIST before. And we also created some kind of integration in to Trivy in K8sGPT. And this is also very easy to enable. So the only thing you have to do to enable Trivy in your cluster, and I hope it's so easy as I think, you only have to say K8sGPT integrations add Trivy. Okay? You think this is you see this is fairly new, and now the whole thing installs Trivy there. And in a few seconds, I think I have a fully working Trivy installation on my Kubernetes cluster. And the next funnier part is I could also let it analyze, run my analyzers the next time. And now it also analyzes Trivy vulnerabilities and misconfigurations. So if the normal explanation thing of K8sGPT is not enough for you, so if you want to do more troubleshooting or more configuration changes, this is the right thing for you. And with this, we could also explain some kind of Trivy issues. So it will also tell you what to do with them. I hope this will not take too long now. So what you see here is what happens if K8sGPT queries OpenAI. And what you also see here is at the moment there are 0 of 39 ready. Sometimes we will be finished. I think today you can trust me that the OpenAI integration also works here. Okay, so how could you get in touch with the project? I'm here till tomorrow, so we can always talk here. I'm also always eager to find out what you would expect from such a tool as K8sGPT, how it could help you troubleshooting your issues. You could always open issues, pull requests, and whatever. I think every one of us is happy if you do something. You can also reach us on the K8sGPT Slack, and as I said before, contributions are very welcome. So, some takeaways for you. Finding simple issues in Kubernetes can get really hard, as we saw in the beginning. So, yes, these were very simple issues, but they took me very long to fix. 2 magic words, so K8sGPT and analyze, can save you hours of troubleshooting. Also a thing we learned to do. And last but not least, the project is steadily growing, so we like to hear from you. And with this, I want to thank you for your attendance here. I'm open for questions, and yes, let's meet afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Thomas, for that very interesting talk. We have time for questions.
I think yours went up first. Hey, so I'm just wondering when you're actually sending prompt to GPT. So the analyze part that you showed, that's sort of like a script that analyzes all your configurations, and that's manual code. And when you want the solution, is that when you send the prompt to GPT? So it's not any retrieval augmented generation or anything. It's really just you're doing a manual step beforehand, and then you're just sending specific smaller prompts to GPT, right?
Yes, exactly. So one thing we decided at the beginning is that we want to stay as precise as possible. So and with the problem patterns we know and how we would troubleshoot them, we know where the problems could be. And when we find specific things which could be relevant for a solution, then we would trigger a prompt and would send it to OpenAI. So in fact, I think the prompt is mostly of the time, please give me a solution for this problem, and it could be that there is an event in there or another thing.
And don't you think it would also be possible to sort of automate this configuration? Many times you're just sort of like analyzing, does the service match the pods or whatever? Could this not be automated by GPT as well, like in a previous step, so that you can simplify all the manual processing that you sort of have to code now?
I think it's always about creating models and so on. So it might be possible to do exactly this. In fact, the analyzers we wrote, they are so simple and so easy to maintain that this doesn't make much difference. So one of the first things we did when we created K8sGPT was to simplify, to reduce the creation of analyzers to a minimum and to standardize them, and therefore the maintenance of them is not a big problem. So even and I'm not the best coder, to be honest, it was very simple for me to create analyzers in about minutes after the first one or two were there.
Cool, thanks a lot. I mean, it's also very inspiring and gives a lot of ideas what you could do with GPT, not only in Kubernetes. I think,
and this was a story I didn't tell you. I think about 1 day after we released the first version of K8sGPT, we had the first fork. And I think this was called CI-GPT. And the next funnier part is one of the guy who forked the thing is now also a contributor to K8sGPT.
Our question from my side. First, thanks for the talk. I really like the idea and the initiative that you take. My question is, you quickly showed that in the configuration of K8sGPT, you have the backend thing and currently set to OpenAI GPT. Do you plan to expand this to maybe other LLMs or other backends, especially given that, I mean, the whole thing is like an open source project, but the OpenAI's GPT is not. Maybe you can. Do you plan on integrating the more open LLMs in there as well in the future? Are there any discussions about this?
Yes, and this is not only a discussion, this is already real. So we are also supporting, I think, Azure AI and also local AI, as far as I know. And what is the last one? Bard? Yeah. This was one I wasn't sure about, but I think we're also working on Bard.
Is there also a plan to have like a standardized API or so that you could plug in your own, if you will, on-prem LLM that you're running? I'm thinking about maybe some companies have like compliance issues that they cannot send everything to to OpenAI or Azure, and then they have like their other small LLM local that they have just with a defined API interface, for example.
Yes, I think that's also the thing with local AI.
Oh, that's local AI, okay.
And I also think the integration code for other LLMs is not very hard.
Okay.
So, as I said before, the AI code consisted in the beginning of around 3 lines. I think for each integration it won't get much harder. It might get harder with the sensitive values and so on, but if new AIs come up, we are always eager to integrate them. Yes.
Thanks.
I think we had one in the back, John. Yeah.
I like the
Thanks.
box.
Thanks for the talk. It was really nice to see it in action with something a little bit more complex. I love Mr. Potato Head now too. But
It's a very cool project. I think you should contribute to it.
We'd have a dance component. That would be the.
You can change the arms.
Yeah. No. My question is: so you pass the problem to the ChatGPT for the solution. Do you have any kind of error correction, or do you check the answer in any way that it's a valid solution to the problem?
In the beginning, we didn't check for it, and I think we don't do until now. I think you can. I think there's kind of a temperature and so on regarding the relevance of the result, and this is a thing you can change in the meanwhile. But no, we are not doing some.
Because I was thinking that's one of the hard things with how much can I trust this answer from an AI perspective.
Until now, so when I found a problem and I got an answer for it, it was always valid.
Mm-hmm.
But as I said, the tool itself is very simple, and the questions we are asking are very precise at the moment. And many Kubernetes problems are very well known, and so they are also well documented in the AI. Another thing I also didn't show to you is we can also query Kubernetes docs for such things. So if you want, you get also information from there for a troubleshooting session.
Cool, thank you. Do you have any, sorry, this is just something that I think about with AI a lot. Do you have any thoughts on how you could actually do that? Like find out whether it's valid or not, because I mean, it gives you so much information and stuff, and there's just these very edge cases where it can be off.
I think one of the things which we could do in the future is to ask many AIs and try to find out if they match.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
We have time for one more question. I think there was one over there. Oh, it's a.
Okay, catch.
I was wondering, you mentioned that you can configure K8sGPT to either just create CRDs or to take actions on its own. With actions on its own, do you just mean the Slack message? Okay, that was basically.
Yes, so we are generating the CRDs in any case, if you are using the operator. And you can also add actions, so at the moment only Slack messages, when we find something. But there might also come more things to configure there.
Okay, thank you. That was my question.
Thank you.
There's another one right behind you.
In the demo, you showed that ChatGPT could find deployment issues. Could it also find runtime issues, like if your deployment is going well and suddenly some pods are in crash loop mode or
Yes.
some stuff? Would it be also detected?
Yes, I think with the operator it should be possible, and it should also detect such things as OpenIS, OM issues, and so on.
Okay.
Although my demos were not so long at the moment, so but normally it should be able to do so.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We have another question behind you.
Did you also look into connectivity issues like service mesh integration?
I'm thinking about it sometimes. Sometimes such integrations are not so easy. So I think yesterday or the day before, I thought about an Argo integration and found out that sometimes imports in Go are not so easy as you might think. And so I think the same is for service meshes. But I think this could also be nice integration issues. And
do you already support gateway API that will be coming someday?
I don't think that there is some integration, some analyzer at the moment. But we support ingresses, if this helps.